This is a town with not one, 4 institutes of higher learning, Ivy Tech, St. Mary of the Woods. Shout out to our engineers at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, and of course, Indiana State University. Crossroads of America, super close to Indianapolis, a few hours away from Chicago and St. Louis. And then you looked at Terre Haute, 1970s, that population was peaking. Manufacturing was rolling in. The downtown was booming. Of course, Terre Haute used to be Sin City. Now we have a casino, so not that type of sin. But what happened, right? From 1970 to 2025, population of 59,000 and a couple hundred. We did have a population increase last year. I helped cause that by having a daughter. By having a daughter, yeah.
The Sakbun effect is real.
Exactly. I believe in adding to the population. No. What I think is interesting is communities like Terre Haute, like Kokomo. We're going to use them as an example too. The United States economy changed. It went from manufacturing-based to a service-based economy. A lot of people will say, well, that's all because of NAFTA. It's a bill from the early 1990s at the federal level. But if you look on a graph over 50 years, the total percentage of manufacturing jobs has been at a decline. When NAFTA, a federal policy, was passed, it did not accelerate that decline. It stayed at a decline. Why? Because, companies go to other countries to make things because, one, the workforce, the labor, and two, the American economy is simply different. We don't have as many individuals who want to work in some of these manufacturing style environments. And Terre Haute, instead of diversifying, what I call job diversification, updating its economy to meet the modern times, kind of stayed flat. They waited for another Sony DADC or another Columbia enameling to come in and open up, instead of saying, let's modernize, let's invest in healthcare, let's grow our banking industry, let's support our unions and our skilled labor community, let's invest in teaching. They kind of got stuck in their ways, and you see that in communities where factories shut down. Yes, factories have reopened. Yes, federal policies do help, but the total amount of manufacturing jobs is not the same. Why? Because of technology. We're more productive on the assembly line than we were 50 years ago. That's what we want to be. Terre Haute, 1970s to now, more people were buying more cars. A lot of cities have struggled because as Americans got more cars, they spread out instead of up. So they spread out a little bit. They stretched out their government services. Think police, think fire, think streets.
Yeah, you're talking, we live in where the whole city is the county. I live in Indianapolis.
Exactly.
So you're talking about expanding and stretching out post deindustrialization. We did it here, and you feel the effect still. We kind of reinvested back into downtown. But that's kind of like the same thing Terre Haute had going on in the 70s where
it is.
Who is downtown? What would I do downtown?
Now think 2025. This is going to shock a lot of listeners, but what do Gen Z and baby boomers actually have in common?
Gen Z
I know you talk to all of them, man. Me too.
What do they have in common? I don't know. If you ask a lot of them, they'd say nothing.
Exactly. They'd be like, well, my grandfather's a Fox News guy and I'm a Pete Buttigieg guy. It's like, no. I'm not even talking about politics. I'm talking about natural wants. What they want is, and we see this through studies and data and through the current population.
They want to walk around. They want to walk.
Gosh.
I walk and talk. They want to walk around.
You are literally the first person to answer that question.
They want to have a neighborhood. Listen, they want to have a neighborhood in which everything that they need, they can get because that's how they grew up.
And what do they want? What do they want there? Let's keep going on this. They want to drink.
Yeah, yes.
Eat.
Everything that you can need.
They want some type of shopping. It's usually boutique shopping.
Stuff to do.
Stuff to do.
There's not. That's the answer.
They want a main street.
Yeah.
They want a main street.
Oh, dude, that's the biggest thing. Check my Instagram comments. There's nothing to do here. It's so boring. There's nothing whether you're 60 or 6, okay, maybe 60 or 16, it's a classic line. There's nothing to do here. It's so boring. And that's why I go out and do all these things of showing. Like, dude, you ever been to a show at the Mill? That place will get you right. You're hitting. That'll get you right.
We've had Ja Rule, we've had T-Pain, but Hoosiers want to live a normal, modern lifestyle. So they want what we past call a designated outdoor refreshment area. Or if you're 21, yes, you can walk from one bar to the other with a drink in a confined area.
Right.
And our downtown, we've got $70 million being invested in downtown Terre Haute. Predominantly private money. That's not public money. That's private. The private sector is saying, no, we bet on this community in this city. That's a town of 60,000 people.
With 70 million committed.
Exactly.
I do want to talk real quick. You talked about putting all of your kind of eggs in the big industry basket, manufacturing specifically,
Yes.
right? When you're relying, I don't know, let's say go back to the 70s, who were the large employers in Terre Haute? Like what were there, like GM or automotive manufacturing? What was that base at?
Really, you had like the big Sony push. That was more 80s, 90s. But even before that, you had like home products. You even had some of our factories on the river post World War II and during World War II started manufacturing ammunition. So how it essentially worked, of course, some agriculture as well. How it worked is a lot of these manufacturers could go with the times and move the pieces that they need to produce whatever widget was hot on the market. Well, 50 years later, what's hot on the market, right? Of course, I don't have an iPhone. I have a Droid. I'm one of those guys. So, but it's like iPhone, screens, technology. Sony DADC, God love them, got crushed when Netflix took off.
I mean, look at a lot of these similar metro. I bet at a time, Anderson, Marion, all those places, they relied on the GMs, the Fords, these big industries that weren't, maybe they made a strategic acquisition and had some manufacturing there, but what's the first, they're not going to cut off their home state.
Exactly.
Right? They shut down. The one thing, Jasper's not nearly as big as Terre Haute. It's probably a third of the size.
You mean the Carmel of the South?
Yeah.
That's what I call Jasper.
Do you know why Jasper has continued to rip, and they've funded or they've really built up their entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Yes.
Like those companies that have been born and bred down in Jasper, they didn't rely on their manufacturing jobs to come from GM. They relied on it to come from the furniture making or whatever. And they really took those businesses to the next level. And so when they were doing, like, if there's restructuring or there's cuts to make, it's not coming on your home turf where you have to see those people in church. Like GM comes in or whatever the microchip, like oh yeah, cut Terre Haute.
Yep.
Like when you don't build up your current work base or your current entrepreneurial ecosystem, it's easy for whoever that's making the decisions in the boardroom in New York to be like, yep, all right, slice that.